Welcome to the Haunted Beard, everybody. My name is Jake. Thank you again for joining me. Today I want to give you my review for the latest film that just dropped on Netflix from Indonesian filmmaker Joko Anwar, and that is Grave Torture. And this is a film that, when it dropped, it completely caught me by surprise. I didn't expect Anwar to have another film or something else coming out this year, as he just released Nightmares and Daydreams just a few months back. But here it is, and I want to give you some thoughts on it. So, Grave Torture tells the story of a brother and sister by the name of Sita and Adil. And Sita becomes very distrustful of religion after a tragedy involving her parents when she was a child. And she makes it her life mission to prove that grave torture, which is this belief in their religion that evil, wicked people are literally tortured physically and spiritually in the grave. So she makes it her mission to prove that grave torture doesn't exist and that religion is completely false. And that little plot synopsis is what really sold me and got me interested in checking this out. And if you don't know, I'm a pretty big fan of religious type horror, and this was one that looked like it was going to explore some pretty interesting themes. I'll start off with the positives, and the biggest positive for me here is the character work. And having now seen this, one of Anwar's films, and the entire series Nightmares and Daydreams, I have noticed that Anwar, I think, does a really solid job with characters. And it was only like 3 or 4 minutes into the movie where I already felt connected to and I cared for the characters. And so he does a really solid job and an efficient job getting you to connect to the characters. He does a good job establishing the relationships and their dynamics and just giving you people that are good people that you can care for and root for and that you just have an interest in. And he especially does a good job with Sita, who is the sister, and she's really the main character, as you understand her motivation and you can sympathize with her. You may not necessarily always agree with the decisions she makes, but you understand the motivation. Very deep emotions here. And this is a film that explores our desire for revenge and how far we're willing to go to exact revenge when we feel like, we've been wronged. Just a very powerful emotion that has kind of consumed her life. And it also looks too at how far we're willing to go and what we're willing to do to pursue truth and get the answers that we seek. And those themes are largely explored through the character of Sita, and I thought that was definitely one of the film's strengths. And Grave Torture is a film, too, that I think is more of a dark drama than just an outright horror. This is a bit more of a family drama with horror elements to it, and it takes more of a, for the most part, kind of a grounded, realistic approach. It's dealing with very real things that can, actually happen in people's lives, and real emotions, real tragedy, real difficulties in life, and how those things mold us and shape us into the people that we become. And so a lot of this has a very grounded, very intense, dramatic, and realistic approach to it, with some horror elements kind of sprinkled throughout. And so while the film, I think, executes well in terms of the drama and some of the tension there, it left a little bit to be desired from the horror aspect, at least in my opinion, that I feel like Anwar does a better job with kind of that family drama stuff than he does with the horror stuff. The horror stuff it's fine, but it doesn't have as much of an impact, and it's not quite as effective as the dramatic stuff. The best scenes in the movie, I think, are the more dramatic ones, and they are simply conversations that happen between characters. One of the best scenes involves a conversation between the brother and sister of Sita and Adil, just talking about their childhood and what has kind of motivated them and the decisions that they've made. And so you get some real intense conflict and drama. There's another scene where Sita, who's grown up to become a nurse and a caretaker, is talking with this old man at a nursing home, and they get into this whole conversation around grave torture, talking about hell and kind of the ethics and morality of how you live your life and what is right and wrong and things like that. And it is a pretty kind of thought-provoking and just interesting conversation. And there's really only one good horror scene in the entire movie. And it's a really good and effective scene. I like how it's shot. It's done all in one kind of handheld take, and it's following Adil around the morgue. And it uses just some good composition and framing to close off the background and then reveal the background as things are going on behind the character that he doesn't know is going on. So it's a really well shot and effective scene. But that's really the only kind of horror scene that really stands out in the entire film for me. And as I said, there are a couple moments where I feel like the film kind of delves into some of those more thought-provoking themes about hell and morality and good and evil and things like that. But it did leave a bit to be desired. I feel like it had potential and opportunity to kind of go into those things more and explore them more, but it doesn't. And so because it leaves some of those themes unexplored, I feel like some of the movie, it feels a little aimless and directionless. And there's a few points in the movie, it just felt a little disjointed to where I was like, okay, I don't know why this is in here. Where are we kind of going? And so there's just a few moments where it just felt like there wasn't a clear direction that the film was headed. And that takes me to the ending, and I'm going to keep this spoiler free because, as I just said, part of the film feels a little aimless. There's some things that start to happen that are not really clear, and I was a little kind of confused about, like, okay, why is this happening all of a sudden? What's going on here? And the ending tries to kind of clean that up, but it's a little bit unsatisfying, at least for me anyways. And I'll say there's a part of how the film ends that I found to be predictable. I kind of called what was happening probably a good 15 minutes before that reveal happened. And while there is part of the end of the movie that I liked, at least conceptually, there is some CGI that's used in the ending sequence that I found to be, I'll just say, not great. And so that kind of hindered the overall effectiveness of it. And then the final 2 minutes of the movie, I didn't really understand. I don't know why they were there. I'm not really sure what Anwar was going for or what he was trying to say with the last couple minutes. They just felt kind of tacked on, and I didn't understand why they were there or what he was trying to do. So it left me a little bit perplexed, but in more of an unsatisfied way at the very end. So overall, this is a film that's a little bit more mixed. I'm still more on the positive than the negative side. Like I said, there's some really solid character stuff here. I do like the dramatic elements. There is some thought-provoking stuff here, but I did feel that the horror was a bit lacking. Some of it felt a little aimless, and then the ending didn't quite come together for me fully. So I think I'm gonna go like a 6.5 out of 10 for Grave Torture. So anyways, those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below like always. If you've seen this, let me know too what your opinion was and thoughts were on like the last 2 minutes. Like, what do you think that was all about? What do you think he was trying to go for? I just didn't really get it. So anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this, you know what to do. Go ahead and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.